Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and what I try to do every now and then is start pulling a few books from my library and talking about them a little bit, and talking about their history and things that are important about it. This and that. What I decided to try to do tonight is to mix two of my hobbies. One is collecting books. I'm fascinated with books, and another is collecting records. I'm fascinated with early recording. And so I thought I'd pull out a few books about records and things that I have and the stories that some of the books might have and some of the items that I have that kind of fit with this whole thing. I was strongly influenced by early recordings. Um, when I went to the Edison National Historic Site as a little boy in a school tour. It was 1964, 60 years ago. Yipes. And we went through the laboratory, and I remember that so well. And it was this old guy who was probably younger than I am right now. And he sat down and talked about Edison and blah, blah, blah. And it was fascinating. And they played an old phonograph. And it was like, wow. And I kind of forgot about that a little bit. And then a few years later, I was in show and tell and in school, and something I don't know if we do anymore in school, but you'd bring something in and talk about it. And I brought pictures of Washington's headquarters, and some other kid brought in a record, an old record. And suddenly that memory of the Edison site kind of got rekindled. And I went to the kid and I said, I'll trade you my stuff from Washington's headquarters for your record. And it was a crappy record, but it started this whole thing that still permeates, my life. And so I started looking around to find out how I could learn about this. In 1971, there really wasn't many places or many things that you could find that could teach you. And so I started squirreling around looking for books and records and stuff like that. And I came across this book. This was my phonograph Bible. Starting off. I don't know when I got this book, but I had it in 1976. I already had it. And I filled it with tons and tons of notes. And every time I discover something, I would write something more inside, creating a couple more chapters to this of information that would help me. Because I will tell you, and a lot of people may disagree with me, and that's fine, with a pencil, if you have something to add to a book that's important and you don't want to forget it, do a little marginalia, put the note there, talk about it. You could always erase it, if you use a pencil. But I have found it immeasurably helpful, because I'll go through this book every once in a while and I'll start reading it, and I start reading my notes. And I'm going, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. That's why it's really important to write that kind of stuff down. But this is the book that was with me from the time I was a teenager and to this very day. I must have had this book for about 50 years, half a century. And this is what I started with. As time went on, I found other books, and there were very few. There was Tinfoil to Stereo, The Fabulous Phonograph, and also Music on Record. I found this. And it's by Fred Gaisberg. And of course, he wrote this book all about his experiences that took place when he worked in the recording industry. He does lie a little bit here and there, but it's a pretty good story. It's quite fascinating. And Tinfoil to Stereo is very good as well. Much more of an Edison bend to the thing and a little bit more technical, whereas the Fabulous Phonograph seemed to be more social history in many respects. And those were the books I kind of started with. And then I talked to old folks and they would tell me everything. And I did some really stupid stuff because I didn't know any better. A fella I knew, he was an artist. He bought a Victrola. This was 1972. Bought a Victrola, and it had a bunch of records, and one of them was by a guy named Enrico Caruso, as I put it then. I said, who the heck is this? And I started learning about this. And suddenly, I realized, after talking to my mother told me that his records are very rare. And I talked to other people, like, oh, his records are very valuable. And so I had recently found a Philco Cathedral radio. Really cool. I wanted to work on it and fix it. It's a really collector's item. But when I heard that he had a Caruso record, I said, I'll trade you the radio for the record. And I did that. And I thought I was the better for the deal. Of course, this was a long time ago, and I have learned a lot since then. But it's kind of fun that I traded an entire beautiful Philco radio for a Caruso recording of Garibaldi's hymn. And all I can say is I will gladly trade 5 Caruso records for a Philco radio today. How's that? Now, to continue, let's go through some of this stuff. This is kind of neat because it's the stuff that I learned from. You know, the whole thing, the most important thing to do is to keep reading. After you read something, read it again. There's so much to learn. This is Michael Sherman's book. Excellent. Really, if you don't have this and you have Victor Records, this is a book you really need. It's still around, still in press. You know, it's interesting. I met Michael Sherman long time ago. I think it was about almost 40 years ago. And, here's what I was looking for. And he was telling me when we met, and we sat and talked a number of times. And I was trying to dabble with records and understanding it. And he told me he wants to do a book on records. And so I kind of encouraged him some and had a few records that fit what he needed and a little bit of information that would help him. And he came out with this book. This was the first of that whole series that would become this book. This is the beginning. And it was very nice to sign it for me, as he did the first one. Yeah. And of course, this is, when did this come out? 1987. So, yeah. Quite a few years ago. But it was really nice. Recently, I got a call from Michael, and we were talking and catching up, and he sent me a couple of copies of his book, and I was very honored by that. It was really sweet of him. And I look forward to hopefully spending some time out there with some of those folks in California for the 100th anniversary of Victor Day, which proved interesting. Now, as I go on here, and I do have a tendency to talk. There's quite a bit of Irish in me, and that certainly has an effect, I've discovered. I don't use notes, I just talk. And I'm lucky that way. I can just talk and have a conversation with you. And I don't need to sit there and look at notes. It's more fun that way, actually. It's like having a conversation. I went through these. Now, this is a great book. If you are into Caruso, this is the ultimate book. Written by John Bolig, and it's an excellent book on Caruso's recordings. Now, he had a previous book, which I got also years ago, and I was very delighted to get this one, because this is the final word, one might say. Of course, into your Columbia records, this is the whole big book on Columbia. It's several volumes of this, but I was only interested in the really early Columbias, and that's all in here, for Climax and early Columbia, which is kind of the stuff I collect. This is for early Victor records. And once again, when I find information, I start, writing notes and putting stuff in to answer various questions and the like. Edison books. These are fun stuff, and it's very, 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 very helpful as you're going through stuff. Once again, all of these various Victor books, this is part 2 of this groundbreaking thing done by, was it Moran and Fagan? This is volume 2 and volume 1. They were really good. And of course, John Bullock has finished that whole thing and gone through various types of series in book form about like Victor Records and its many labels. This is another really good one. This is all about the Red Seal records. And there's just so many different types of records. And, as I said, as a collector, I love to find things, but I like to be able to learn about them too. And, well, this teaches you a lot. There's an awful lot of information here. Continuing. These are 2 other books I would recommend to you if you get the chance. The Berliner disc by Michael Sherman. And this is the Collector's Guide to Edison Record by George Copeland and Michael W. Sherman. Once again, very, very good books. They teach you an awful lot. And that's what we need to do. That's the wonderful thing about having books. You learn something. This is a great old book. This is, one of the people that really taught me an awful lot was Ray Weil, and I spoke to Ron Deatherson quite a few times. This is signed by them going back a few years ago. Ray Weil gave me one of the finest things in my research for Edison. He gave me some really off-color comments, and someday I have to find a venue in which I can use them, but I can't use them yet. Now, this is interesting. If you're into opera, this Michael Scott's The Record of Singing, these 2 here, really quite good, and in my library, of course. I was very fortunate a number of years ago to go with my dear friend Charlie Hummel, who is one of the great collectors and dealers in early phonographs and various paraphernalia dealing with the phonograph industry and Edison in general. And we were invited to partake in the 100th anniversary of the Victor Talking Machine Company. Now, Victor was a very, very preeminent company. Existed until about 1928, 29. And then it was taken over by RCA. I'm making this very quick. There was not a lot of stuff that went on, but just making this simple. They were taken over by RCA. And, of course, over the years, lots of other companies took over this thing. You had, General Electric and various other things. But I was there with Charlie, and we were in the celebration for the 100th anniversary of Victor. We brought a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of artifacts, a lot of collector's pieces. And one of the people we worked with, of course, was John Barnum, who wrote this book called his master's voice in America. It's Frederick Barnum, pardon me. Frederick Barnum. And very kindly, he wrote me a wonderful intro, one might say, or note or message to me. And I thought it was really sweet. On October the 3rd, 2001. This book here, of course, which was his book, Frederick Barnum. And it's a fantastic book as well. It's not an easy book to find. But it's filled with photographs and information about Victor RCA and going all the way up into the time of General Electric. It's really quite great. Now, this is another book. This is Alan Cohensberg wrote some phenomenal books and great history. This is his book on 2-minute Edison cylinders. This is going way, way, way back. And he signed it for me and stuff like that, which is really nice. And it's another book. If you can find this one, and if you're interested in 2-minute wax cylinders by Edison, definitely a great book to have. Of course, then there's the Victor Talking Machine Company and this wonderful book. And this one's signed as well. You know, Robert Bombach. Yeah. Bang. Which is kind of nice. Lots of these books. And you know something, they really help. You know, as I talked about, like the War of 1812 and the Civil War and stuff like that, but sound recording is an equal curiosity to me. You know, here's like examples. This record's from 1900. Think about that. How old that is. And recording something really special. I want to share something with you I don't think I've ever shared on the internet. It's just something I really like. Something special. When I was doing a recording project and I was recording acoustically voices of, various individuals, I did record the voice of President Gerald Ford. And one of the things I wanted to do with that, to show the significance of sound recording, was to have a recording of Theodore Roosevelt play. And to listen to it would be the 38th president listening to the 26th. I thought that would be just a fascinating way to share history. And so, this is the record I played for President Ford. And I have my notes inside it just to verify what it is. And this is President Theodore Roosevelt. And on that special day, which I think was like November 9th or 10th, 1999, almost 25 years, the two presidents spoke in a very unique way. And I was very, very happy and proud of that. And it just fit right into my whole life of interest in sound recording. I have many interests, and I'll share other books on different topics that I pull out of the library. There's so many different things, and I collect so many different topics. I am always trying to learn and always trying to expand my understandings. I don't always succeed, but I try. And that's the whole idea of surrounding yourself with a library. So that's about all I wanted to say. I hope you found this a little interesting. I will go to different topics and subjects, some going way, way, way back, and hopefully we'll have some fun then. So thank you so much.